Good morning, everybody. Thank you, and I really appreciate everybody coming out today. We might be onto something here. So much effort and work has gone into planning this over the last year or so that it's wonderful to see the response here from our community today, and I'm sure for the coming years as well. Many people have heard us say over time that our goal at Metro government is to make sure the full human potential of everybody in our city is flourishing. Shining like the sun is what Thomas Merton would say. And that's how we define compassion in our city as well. And in order to make that a reality, we have to understand the challenges that the people of Louisville face in trying to reach their full potential. Everybody could say individually, each and every one of us face individual challenges. But for far too many people, they face barriers and burdens that have nothing to do with their individual character, but instead result from some other kind of difference, let's say, or systemic issues or institutionalized issues, forces like discrimination, racism, prejudice, sexism, and many other isms and forms of hatred. So when we step back and ask, why? Is this something new? We'd have to say no. Unfortunately, these traits have been part of our country before we were founded, from our founding, and have gone on, and in my view, have been largely unaddressed by our education system, by our societal system. Many of these forms of prejudice have been protected by those in power, typically white men. I apologize on behalf of all white men, but there's no way that we can realize our potential as a city, as a state, as a country, if everybody is not involved. So for too long, society has worked to deny or minimize their impact, both historically and today. And that denial has done a tremendous disservice and resulted in immense pain and immense suffering to generations of Americans from many, many different backgrounds. Now, when I have these conversations with folks, I notice that a lot of people get defensive. And I say, why are you defensive? None of us really are responsible for the actions of past generations. But we are responsible for understanding what those actions were and how they impacted us and how they impacted our country, especially today. And I believe we are honor-bound to take actions to make things better tomorrow. That's why I'm really proud today to announce the official launching of Lean Into Louisville. Lean Into Louisville is an unprecedented series of actions for our city, conversations, presentations, and art exhibits that will explore and confront the history and legacy of all forms of discrimination and inequality in our city and our country. This is a national challenge. It's just not a local challenge, but we got to take care of our own backyard. Hate and hate crimes have been on the rise just in these past couple years in our country. We saw that in Charleston, Charlottesville, Pittsburgh, and right here in our own community in J-Town this past October. And let's be clear, these are not just crimes. These are not just tragedies. They have to be calls for us to act. They must stir us to act. We must not stop back and say there's nothing we can do about this. We must send a louder, clearer message that hate has no home in our city. And in order to do this, our community must have the will, the sense of connection, and the social muscles to take this on. Louisville does, and Louisville will. This is a conversation that we should have had generations ago in our city and across our country. We didn't then, but we will do it today. And we will be an even stronger and more connected community as a result. Lean Into Louisville has three major components. Number one, learning opportunities. In partnership with the Louisville Free Public Library and the Louisville Human Relations Commission, Lean Into Louisville will offer opportunities for people to explore our history in new ways. As a community, we'll learn about the historical discrimination based on gender, race, religion, age, gender identity, sexual orientation, disabilities, and nationality or immigration status, and how that history impacts our city and our country today, and what we can do to make tomorrow better. The first opportunity is kicking off in just a couple days at the Martin Luther King Day celebration, The Fierce Urgency of Now, that will be Monday, MLK Day, January 21st, 1:30 p.m. at St. William Church on West Oak Street. Second component will be talking circles. Lean Into Louisville will feature opportunities for small group discussions of these issues and their ongoing impacts, as well as ideas for ways that individuals and organizations can help create a more equitable city. To create a safe space for idea exchange, the talking circles will be moderated by trained professional facilitators. We will announce more on these in the coming weeks. And the third element, public art. Lean Into Louisville also will include a focus on creating arts experiences and investing in new works of art in public places that share untold stories, but from a diverse selection of artists that represent our city's values of equity, inclusion, and compassion today. Specifically, in the coming weeks, we will announce new exhibitions and grants for artists related to Lean Into Louisville. And let's be clear, this is important work for the future prosperity of our city, in total and individually. 21st century talent, businesses, young professionals who want to have a successful future want to locate in a progressive and forward-looking city that understands everybody has to be along for the ride. Welcoming cities where everyone has a shot at realizing their full human potential, regardless of what you look like, what country you come from, who you love, what gods you might worship. Everybody has to have a chance. So Lean Into Louisville is the kind of initiative that I believe will send a message, not just to our city, but all across the country, that we're the kind of city that understands that dealing with the past is the only way to create a prosperous future for everybody. And I can tell you that national foundations, other cities are already interested in the work that we're doing here with Lean Into Louisville. Because fortunately, we're not the only city in the country that realizes this is an issue that we've got to work with. So we'll be having lots of partners from around the country as we do this work. Our business community gets this in a big way. If you're a business, you do not want any barriers to talent joining your company. And they have been, and they are going to be even more outstanding supporters for Lean Into Louisville. I'd like to offer special thanks to these folks who represent a few of our business and community partners. Norton Healthcare with Russ Cox, Lenny Meyer, and Jackie Beard. The Jewish Heritage Fund for Excellence with Jeff Polson. Community Foundation led by Susan Berry. Papa John's, Victoria Russell is here with us today. Ford Motor Company with Cynthia Goldsberry and Tammy Hatfield. Humana, Maria Hughes. Mike Ash with Fifth Third Bank. Susan Moss with Kindred Healthcare. Ferdinand Risco with TARC. A.J. Hubbard with GE Appliances, and the University of Louisville with Maureen Archer Taylor. These and many other business folks and education leaders, nonprofit leaders, are coming together around Lean Into Louisville. And we specifically want to design this effort so the people of our city and the country realize that this is not just a bunch of do-good government types or, left-leaning Democrats that are thinking we need more equity. This is a movement. It's Republicans, it's Democrats, it's left, it's right, it's up and down, it's brown, it's black, it's white, it's whatever you want to be. It's everybody that realizes these are human values. Okay? So this is a community challenge, and it's going to obviously require a community response. And our nonprofit community is incredibly important in this effort. And I'd like to introduce one of our city's most important and closest partners, and that is the professional woman that was recognized in working for Metro government as the premier person in the country for work around open data, performance improvement in government. We were fortunate enough that she was our founding chief for our Office for Performance Improvement and led that effort for 5 years for the city. And now she's doing an incredible job leading our Louisville Metro United Way. Please welcome their Chief Executive Officer, Teresa Reno Weber.
Thank you, Mayor Fischer, and thank you all for being here today. It is wonderful to see the diversity of the community that's come out for this groundbreaking initiative here. Metro United Way is proud to stand with the city in the Lean Into Louisville effort. And we know that there are many dedicated community members from across the nonprofit space that have been working to address the very symptoms and issues that the systemic and institutional barriers that the mayor alluded to have created across our community. Metro United Way has been here for over 100 years, and we are not just dedicated to working with our partners to address those issues and those symptoms that have been created, but to also look at changing those systems and changing those institutions so that we reduce the inequity that we see in our community. We have been working for 100 years, but we really began to lean in our own way over the last several years with an initiative that was initially funded by the Keenan Charitable Trust called Black Male Achievement. And we got there because we followed the data. And unfortunately, too often when we look at statistics and metrics and data and information, Black men and boys are overrepresented in all the areas that are negative associations and underrepresented in all the areas that have positive associations. And that's not necessarily an accurate picture of what's really happening, but so much of it is part of the narrative that we use in the community when we talk about the differences and when we don't focus on a true understanding of what really our common humanity is and what truly unites us. One of the areas through our Black Male Achievement work that we focused on is an asset frame, is starting to talk about the assets that individuals bring to our community. And so it may surprise you, though it shouldn't, to know that 19% of the service members and veterans living in our community are African American. It may surprise you, but it shouldn't, to know that 11% of the thriving business owners and community leaders in our community who are employing individuals are African American. Or that across the nation, the fastest growing percent of new businesses and entrepreneurship and growth is through the African American community. These are the types of things that Metro United Way and our partners have been working to educate our community on and to lift up. And we know that through the Lean In effort, the conversations that the city and our partners will continue to have in terms of the understanding of what's gotten us here, so that we know where we want to go and how we can change the trajectory that we're on, is going to continue to illuminate the positive contributions of not only the races among us, but of women, of our LGBTQ community, of our immigrant community, and of so many others that unfortunately today still feel very marginalized. We have been recognized as a community for the work that we've already been doing. The Association of Black Foundation Executives have lauded Metro United Way with an institutional award for our work in investing in communities of color. We have the first Chief Equity Officer in the United Way Network here with Daryl Unseld, and we continue to build a community roundtable with Yvette Gentry in these conversations that are so important for our future. So we are all in on the Lean Into Louisville effort, and we know that we are committed to continuing to not only having conversations, but to finding and investing in solutions, and to act in a way that we can make sure every person in our community has the opportunity to live to their full potential.
Thank you, Teresa. An important partner for us in this effort is our Louisville Free Public Library system that belongs to all of us. And we're just delighted to be here in this beautiful, relatively new facility to showcase this library and many others like it. So Lee Birchfield is running our library system. Lee, would you please come up and say a few words?
Thank you. Good morning, and it's my privilege and pleasure to welcome you to the South Central Regional Library. I imagine for some of you it's your first time to visit with us. I hope it won't be your last. This is one of 3 regional libraries that we will have built in the county since 2013. The first one is in just off Dixie Highway in Valley Station. This one has been open for about a year, and then this spring we will open the third regional library out adjacent to the Northeast YMCA, if you know where that is, off Whips Mill Road. We're very excited about those 3 facilities opening. If it's been a while since you've visited one of our libraries, I hope that before you leave today, you can take a minute to browse our book collection, our collection of movies on DVD and Blu-ray, our music collection on CDs. Talk with our staff about the programs that we offer here, including a number of programs that we now have planned as part of the Lean Into Louisville initiative. We're very excited to be in a position where we can coordinate our programming with this initiative, which is so crucial and central to everything that we do here at the library. Our services are open to anyone who lives, works, or goes to school in Jefferson County. And we really don't care what political party you belong to, what religious beliefs you have, what race you identify with, what gender you identify or don't identify with. We are open to everyone and have been for a very long time. So if you don't have a library card, I hope you'll get one. If you haven't used yours in a while, look around and you might find something that interests you. We've started offering a new service recently, Canopy Streaming Video, where you can watch great movies and documentaries. If you don't know anything about that, ask our staff. And check out our calendar of events. We have some great programming coming up, and we're very excited to be participating in this program, and I'm very excited that you all are here. Talk to our staff, get to know us, come out and see us. Don't be strangers. We'll leave the light on for you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Lee. So our library system is just one of our many great partners that we're going to have throughout this effort. Another great partner, obviously, is our education sector. And as I've mentioned many times before in the city, most Americans know more about the Holocaust in Germany than they do about the impact and the origins of slavery in our country, which is quite ironic and sad. Really, we're going to have tremendous partners. I mentioned University of Louisville earlier here today. JCPS is going to be an integral partner with Lean Into Louisville. And to speak on their behalf, please welcome Renee Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, this really is great to see the turnout and support for this new initiative for this city. And it really is a pivotal moment here in Louisville where we can have some frank conversations, some really honest conversations, and some tough conversations. And that's what we've been doing in Jefferson County Public Schools over the last year. We had to get real honest with ourselves and talk about what we were going to do. It hasn't always been easy, but the result of those tough conversations has been our racial equity policy and our racial equity plan that just passed last week by our board members. And so we are on the right path, and we are glad to be a part of this initiative and to continue the conversations. Our Chief Equity Officer, Dr. John Marshall, is here with us today. He, along with other administrators, community leaders, and teachers, will be engaging in these conversations throughout the community with our parents, with other folks, and with you, most importantly. So this is really the foundation of what can be a great moment here in Louisville, and JCPS is certainly glad to lean into Louisville. Thank you.
Seems like she's had experience speaking to the public before. That was quite good there. I want to recognize Steve Conrad, also our Chief of Police, and Major Ryan Bates over here. Think about the cause behind much of their work. It is dealing with the lack of equity and the failures of so many of our systems and institutions over the years. And for far too often, our society seems to think investing after the fact is the right way to solve a problem, as opposed to investing before so we don't have issues, so people are realizing their full human potential. But we're proud of the work that LMPD does, their relentless focus on improvement. Chief Conrad will be the first one to say that a police force is only as legitimate as the community says it's legitimate, and to kind of struggle with that ambiguity around policing in 21st century America. So, Chief, to you and your team, we appreciate the good work that you guys are doing. We know it's difficult. Thank you. Now, it's really important that the business community is integral to Lean Into Louisville, and that's one of the areas that we're really happy with all this starting out, is when we started talking about equity and justice and really understanding about all forms of discrimination, the business community was saying, hey, this can help us. We need to send the word to all of our stakeholders, our customers, our investors, that we understand that everybody has to be along for the ride. So you can expect to see them front and center during this Lean Into Louisville, sending a message that, yeah, this just is not just a social issue. This is a business issue also for the prosperity of all of us here in our community. So representing our business community today, please welcome Ralph D. Chabert from Brown-Forman. Ralph?
Sorry. Good morning. And thank you all for being here. And in a very humble way, I'd like to say that we are very clear as an organization of Brown-Forman that there's one thing that we say, and we believe it very deeply: if you don't intentionally include, you may unintentionally exclude. What that means for us is a loss in productivity. There are retention issues, there are creativity issues, there are innovation issues. We're very clear that the isms are damaging. And to that extent, we are very much involved with the idea of talking circles. And you should know that we have been about that, not unlike many other brethren here in this work. We do it with what we call real talks, where we sit down and have dialogue around racial issues. Our senior leaders get involved in those discussions, and we just recently had a discussion 2 weeks ago that I think is typical of what will happen as we lean into Louisville even more, where we had a group of folks who are white and allies who want to understand the racial impacts going on either within the organization or outside of the organization. We met for an entire day to discuss the journeys of race, color, and culture, not only in our city, but in our country, and to the extent that is pervasive or indicative of anything going on in any of the companies, we are very much involved with this work. We look forward to the work. We look forward to engaging with the city, and thank you for the opportunity to really help Louisville be the possibility city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. I also want to thank the members of my team who have been so involved in putting this effort together. Kelly Watson, our Chief Equity Officer, has been working really hard on this for a long time. Thank you, Kelly. My Deputy Chief of Staff, Katie Dalinger, over here. Thank you, Katie. And Judd Hendricks over here is serving as our project manager. So thank you, Judd. So this is the right conversation at the right time, and I believe in the right city for this action to take place, and especially this week as we celebrate the births of two extraordinary Americans, Dr. Martin Luther King and our very own Muhammad Ali, both of them great champions for freedom and equality, great role models for all of us. And the stories of heroes like them are part of our history as well. And inspiring stories like theirs and many others will be told through our Lean Into Louisville efforts. So I'm urging everybody in our city to get involved, to lean in. Come to an event, share your story, listen to stories of fellow Louisvillians. Lean Into Louisville is particularly targeted at folks that have been wanting to get involved but don't know how to get involved, or folks that are not quite sure they're ready for a conversation like this but want somehow to take the next step. What we're really trying to do here is grow from the middle out. So we're folks that said, this isn't about me, or I'm uncomfortable with whatever aspect. They're going to be able to find a good, safe place to learn more about our history, learn more about themselves, expand their consciousness, and be able to help themselves in our city in the meantime. So let's find folks that are not the typical subjects, if you will, that when you go to some of these meetings, it's like you know a lot of the folks there because they happen to be interested in this. Lean Into Louisville is about radically expanding the number of folks that are getting this type of awareness raising. So we got to all think about our networks and who's on the outside and the perimeter of our networks to bring them in so we can expand this as a way of life in our city. And I think at the end of the day, what people will do is be able to learn, enjoy, help other folks. At the end of the day, I think that's why we're all here on the face of the earth. We'll be sharing our history, and we will own our history, just like we will own and share our future together. So Lean Into Louisville obviously is designed to make us have a better future for all Louisvillians. And you can find more information at leanintolouisville.org. And I would just encourage everybody now to let's dig in and make this a model program for the entire country. Thank you all so much for coming out today.